So that covers everything in our staff data file. We do have one more piece of data that we need to integrate, which are their photos. In the '08 staff photos folder here, we have a photo for each staff member. So let's add an image field. We'll go to add field. And again, we have the option of creating a new field or selecting an existing field. We have image field image here. We talked about sharing fields earlier, but just to quickly reiterate, the benefit to sharing fields usually boils down to how they're used in views. You can use a common field across multiple content types in order to group multiple content types together that have a similar field in common. There are also some possible benefits in performance, though that usually only comes into play when you have hundreds or thousands of fields to deal with. For smaller sites, you'll probably run into the fewest problems if you default to creating a new field each time. That way you don't end up with two content types sharing a field and needing to change one of them but not the other, and thus having to refactor both content types. So let's create a new field. We're going to choose image. For the label, we'll put photo, and you may have noticed this machine name that pops up to the side when you enter the label. The machine name is something that's used by the database in order to uniquely identify this field. Every field within a certain entity type has to have a unique machine name. Because this photo is going to be specific to our staff, what we can do in order to make the machine label more specific is click Edit and add a prefix here, staff photo. That way our label can still be laconic, it doesn't have to say staff photo, but our machine name can still be specific. I'll click Save and Continue. This is the first time we've added an image field, so let's talk about the options briefly. There's no additional selections available for upload destination, just public files. Drupal supports a private file system, which is an area where files can't be accessed directly. In the public file system, someone could pull up an image, for example, inside of that file system without having to load a Drupal page. With private files, Drupal has to serve up the file directly, so you have to do it through Drupal instead of directly accessing the file. We can set a default image. This is nice if you want a placeholder. In this case, if we had staff members that didn't have images, we might want to put a nice little silhouette here. We can also set the default alt text, which is what shows up when people use screen readers in order to browse the web. And we can set a default title, which is what shows up when a user hovers over an image with their mouse. We're only going to have one photo for each user, so we'll click Save Field Settings. Here we have some additional settings. I'll scroll past required field and default image here. We can set the allowed file extensions. The default here is pretty solid. In general, your users won't be uploading anything other than PNGs, GIFs, and JPEGs. The file directory is where all of the files that are uploaded through this field end up residing within the public files directory. This is a dynamic value here, which sets the folder to the year in the 4-digit format and then month in the 2-digit format. So if there's files that are continually uploaded, they will end up in a new folder each month. The benefit to doing this is mostly centered around file names. For example, if we upload an image called fill.jpg and then we upload another image called fill.jpg in the same folder, Drupal will rename that file so that it's unique. It will append a digit to it, so it would be fill_0, and then the next one would be fill_1. In order to prevent a lot of this rewriting, if we have a new folder every month, it will limit the amount of file names that get rewritten, because oftentimes they'll be in a unique folder. So if I upload fill.jpg today and then do it again in a month, it will end up in a new folder where it can have the same file name. In our case, I think it would be more useful to have all of the staff photos appear in one folder. Each photo will have a unique name anyway. So I'm going to enter a folder called staff. This folder doesn't have to exist. It will create it automatically as soon as we upload a file here. If we want to constrain the size of images that get uploaded, we can set a maximum or minimum image resolution, as well as the maximum upload size. This is more useful when you have a public-facing upload form. In our case, this is going to be used internally, so we don't need to really worry about this. We're going to leave the Enable Alt field and Alt field required selected. We're going to leave the Enable Title field unselected. And we'll demonstrate what all of these checkboxes do in a moment. And let's click Save Settings.